And it only took me 95 hours to get there. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Toast Hammer. Now, there is a brand spanking new Warhammer 40k game that just got released. Everybody's super hype about it. So we're going to completely ignore that and talk about this other game that came out like a year ago. I just recently finished my first playthrough of the Rogue Trader CRPG designed by Owlcat Games, and I got some thoughts about it. Now, this is a lore review, so of course mechanics are good. This is, a fun tactical combat RPG, but we don't care about that. We don't care about the various bugs and, long loading times that may be associated with affected performance issues. Taking away a little bit from otherwise a very well-crafted and genuinely fun game. We're here to talk about the story. So, warning, of course, we're talking about the story. There might be some spoilers. I'm not going to go all in. I want to leave some stuff for you guys to discover yourselves, but needless to say, this is a game with a lot of secrets, as all things Warhammer tend to be. So let's get into some of them. First of all, from the lore perspective, the vibes are immaculate. The art direction is what I would say is a little bit more heavy metal than it is grimdark, as I would like to prefer, but the sense of scale in some areas is truly mind-blowing, and overall you do get a lot of the gritty realism thrown in. There is blood everywhere, there are corpses everywhere. Stuff is bad, and that comes through in the art direction, despite it being perhaps a little bit too colorful for my personal tastes. But the story itself is really, I think, quite well crafted. There are twists and turns along the way, mysteries to uncover, and bold character interactions and relationships that really drive the main cast forward. The main cast in this game is truly really well crafted. I think every member of the Rogue Trader's retinue, they have their own sort of side quests that you can follow. I did all of them, and all of them were really good, kind of surprisingly. I'm not even into Space Wolves, but the Space Wolf guy, he had a pretty freaking cool quest. Not going to get into what each happened specifically in their quest, because that is, of course, spoiler territory. Needless to say, I enjoyed, I think, every single one of them thoroughly, except for the Psyker. I killed her. She was doing some heresy, and I took care of that. This is sort of a free-form game. You do have the opportunity to destroy most of your companions if you see fit to do so. There are 3 different kind of main paths you can take through the game, being a dogmatic adherent to the law of the Imperium, being straight up a heretic serving the ruinous powers, or the path that I chose, which was called the Iconoclast, which is more of the populist, hope for a better future, help the people around you and they will help you back kind of path. I chose that because I'm a naive optimist in Warhammer, which you should absolutely never be, but it turned out pretty well, and I got a pretty interesting ending out of it. Regardless of the path you choose, those can affect your dialogue choices and the character choices that you can make in the game. Speaking of dialogue, there's a lot of it. The parts that are voice acted are done so very well, from the bellowing confidence of Sister Argenta.
Gladly, there are none more faithful to the God Emperor than my sisters. We fight against his enemies by the will of the Holy Ecclesiarchy. I beg your pardon, Rogue Trader. Here I am talking about what every lesser noble in the Imperium knows. So what exactly are you interested in hearing about?
To the techno-babble of Pascal Heinemann.
That is a bold hypothesis. And yet the Omnissiah teaches us that a dauntless mind can penetrate any knowledge Psychoanalysis, where the ignorant see heresy, the enlightened might see truth.
The voice actors of your companions are really, I think, well picked and act their lines out well. However, these are the only voice lines that are really in the game. Pretty much everything else you're going to be reading. And oh man, is there a lot of reading. So if you like reading, you're in luck. I think I read about 2 to 3 books worth of stuff in this game as I was playing through it, but I enjoyed pretty much every moment of it. And along with the vibes, you may have noticed a little bit of a change in the music. We're listening to the OST of the game here, and it is incredible. Up there with the likes of Dark Tide in Warhammer soundtracks, Mechanicus. This is just another goated entry into Warhammer game soundtracks. They've been really killing it in terms of the music overall in the franchise, and I hope to see it continue in Space Marine 2 once I get a chance to play that game. So, story is super well crafted, characters are interesting, music's a bop, art, for me, leaves a little bit of something to be wanted, but it does the job. What else is there to say? Well, me being a cog boy myself, very late into the game, Pascal, your companion, Tech Priest companion, has some very interesting things to say about one of the factions, and I actually had not heard that interpretation before. I'm going to put a censored kind of version on the screen just so you can get a sense of what he's talking about, hopefully without spoiling too much, but the eagle-eyed viewers around you may be able to pick up on it anyway. So, reader beware. If you don't want to get spoiled for absolutely anything in this game, don't bother reading it. I'll just put it up for a couple seconds. You can pause it and read it if you would like to. Now, this is a very interesting interpretation of one of the well-known factions in the 40k universe that I had not seen before, and I had not seen it mentioned in the fiction before. So this might actually be a brand new lore drop. If it is true that the Mechanicus think this way about this faction, well, that does kind of change things and make for some interesting interpretive conflicts, and it kind of reframes a bunch of things that we've seen in the fiction before. But what does it all mean? Well, I'm not really sure. I don't know how much creative liberty Owlcat Games was given while developing this game, but seeing that it is an officially licensed product, I have to assume that this is all canon stuff, at least to a reasonable degree, because, of course, your player character can make insane choices and live through the consequences of them. But overall, would I recommend this game? I think the story, I would give it probably a 4.5 out of 5. Extremely strong entry. There were a couple of places where it lulled a little bit, but overall very fun. The companions, absolutely, their quests nailed it out of the park. Totally awesome. What about for a new person to Warhammer, though? Would I recommend it to them? And I would have to say yes. I think this is a 5 out of 5 great entry for beginners into Warhammer. If you like the setting and have a passing interest, or maybe you saw like a lore video or something and want to get a little bit deeper into it, I think this is a great way to do so. Yes, there's a lot of reading, but hey, you can like reading and not be into Warhammer. But what's really cool is that all of this sort of like Warhammer jargon, all of those like keywords, you can hover over them and then it actually gives a little explanation of what that thing is. So it's explaining these fundamental concepts as it's narrating about them, which I think is a great little touch for people new to Warhammer. And I think that this story also touches on all of those things that make Warhammer fiction great. It has enthralling combat. It has, again, inquisitive depth and mystery to it. It has all of the grim darkness you can shove into a single entry of fiction, especially through the writing. Your character can make some absolutely gruesome decisions, and sometimes they have to, and that's really a whole part of the Warhammer experience. So yes, I would heavily recommend this to new players, or players encountering or interfacing with Warhammer for the first time. But what does that mean, like, overall? You know, this game does have problems. It is mechanically not perfect. The combat, while often challenging, does seem to fall off in difficulty a little bit, especially towards the end of the game as your characters get progressively more and more powerful. I didn't personally mind that, but some people might be looking for a constant challenge level. I was not playing at a super hard difficulty. I don't know what those are like, but hey, can't speak to it. There are numerous bugs, especially in the later chapters throughout the game. Nothing game-breaking or immersion-breaking, so to speak, but just a couple of annoyances here and there. So overall, I would still give this game a recommendation, especially if you like Warhammer or are new to it and are eager to learn about the setting. This really covers, it gives like a really nice overview of the entire universe in one game, which I think is pretty hard to do. So I'll count that as a pretty strong accomplishment. Also, interesting fun fact, it's based on the Dark Heresy or Rogue Trader TT RPG system, the pen and paper role-playing game made originally by Fantasy Flight Games and I think re-released by someone else, which is also a great rule system. So if you're looking for an immersive way to play an RPG, hey, maybe you should check this one out. And while you're at it, there's some new DLC about to drop that is going to add Death Cultists to the game, which I am pretty excited for, because I've been pretty into Death Cultists lately. So stay tuned if you want to hear about why. Definitely hit that subscribe button. I got some spicy stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. And if you enjoy this review, feel free to throw it a like. It really helps the channel. And if you've played Rogue Trader before, do you agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!